Hello, welcome. It's Digital DJ Tips. It is a Tuesday and it is 3 p.m. London, 10 a.m. Eastern. Welcome. It's another Tuesday Tips Live. And this week, there's a bit of news out there. We've got some new software and some new hardware supporting, working with that software. And of course, it is the new Rane 4 hardware, and it's also Serato Pro and Serato Lite 3.0, which is supporting that. So you can get the news of that over on Digital DJ Tips. We've got the Serato DJ Pro and Lite 3.0 with stems news piece, which you're looking at on your screens now. And we've also got the, there's our show. That's cool, isn't it? We've also got the Rane 4 controller review and also the video where we give you a full demo of all the features, which we're about to talk a little bit more about. And the reason we're going to be talking about all that stuff now is that I'm very kindly joined today by OP Miller over in Serato's New York studios, who has got everything set up there and he's very excited to talk to us. Obviously a big day for Serato yesterday to launch all of this. So I'll bring him in now. OP, hello.
Phil, good morning. How you doing?
Oh, very, very good, thanks. And how's it going over there?
It's a little bit of a dreary day here in New York City, but very exciting to be able to have 3.0 finally out with stems. DJ World's been waiting for this, anticipating for a long time, and it's finally here. And we're very happy with the results of it. So yeah,
cool.
It's good stuff.
Good. Well, we've got a full show here today with everything going out on our Twitch and our Facebook and our YouTube with hundreds of people tuned in. And as always, we like to say to everyone watching, please ask questions. That's the whole point of this. We are here to answer questions about stems, about Serato, about the Rane 4. Which I have here. I see you've got real decks set up there, but these are, as far as controllers go, these are pretty real decks as well. I'm sure everyone will agree. It's quite
Absolutely.
An interesting unit. As I say, we've got a full review of this one. So I've got questions to start us off, OP, and then when we've got through these, I'm sure we'll have lots of people asking stuff as well on the chat that maybe we can deal with as well. Does that sound good?
Sounds great. Let's go.
Cool. Right. Okay. Well, let's start off then with my very first question. Now, this was probably the most public beta release of software ever. It was like a celebration of stems before it was even released because everyone had this on their computers. People were using it on live streams. People were using it at gigs, even though it's got that, skull and crossbones or whatever it is on the opening page.
That's right. That's right.
Saying do not use in a live situation. But hey, everyone was using it. We did a review and a comparison with other stems, algorithms and stuff. So it was everywhere. So my first question is, in that pretty long, pretty public period where you had this software out there, but it wasn't officially released, what did you learn? What did Serato learn about stems, about the technology, about the compatibility, about how it was dropping? What did you gain from that period?
Yeah, I mean, it was really interesting going through the beta process. Luckily, because I work at Serato, I was able to see alpha beforehand, and to really have those conversations with HQ in regards to Serato HQ, that is, in regards to the quality of the audio separation. Is there clarity in the drums? Is there clarity in the voice? Is there definition in the bass? And is there kind of breadth and clarity in the melodies? And actually being able to sit down and not only talk with the kind of products team and the development team at HQ, but also talking with some of the people on the teams directly here on the US side of things as well, to really be able to see their reaction when we were using it, and then also the early time when people like Scratch Bastard having him tested, because he's kind of the spokesperson, if you want to say, for this campaign that we're doing, seeing what his reaction was as well. So having the confidence to be able to give that feedback in the right way, for them to go back and kind of tweak algorithms and machine learning, and really also being able to listen as well. The one benefit to Serato is that the people that work there are also producers and DJs like myself, right? So it's not just actually looking at zeros and ones to see where they all kind of land and fit, but also really listening as well to make sure that those things are making sense. And if you have to tweak it, more outside of what should be traditional as 0 and 1, that you can do so to make it work right. So we learned a lot, during that time period. And as well, making sure that what we were doing was ours as well, right? That this algorithm that we've created, the coding that is to say, is something that's specific to Serato. This is not a borrowed technology from somebody else. We took the time to really study it. A lot of people, I remember I was at the DJ Expo 2 years ago, right as COVID was kind of starting to kind of break down and we were starting to get back into the world. And a lot of DJs came up and asked me, like, "Oh, did you hear the stems in these other programs?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's cool. Like, this technology's out there. It's cool." And they're like, "Yo, is Serato going to do it?" And I was like, "Well, tell me what you think about the other programs." And they were like, "Yeah, sounds cool, but every once in a while I get a little bleed, or it might not sound as clear." And I was like, "Okay, cool. Like, do you really want to use that?" And they're like, "Yeah, I could kind of get away with it. People are drunk in the club. They're not really going to understand it. They're not going to hear it. It's going to be fine." And I was like, okay, well, if Serato's going to do it, we're going to do it to where we're going to have, that clarity. We're going to have that definition in the audio. But we're not going to rush to do it unless we know we can do it right. And so we took the time to really do it. And I think the results that we come up with are really great. And we've kind of seen that through the beta process of people being able to give those, kind of comments, listening to what we've done and then listening to other things that are out there. So, yeah, it's been a really great, time to do it. And it's a great time in DJing and technology, which is really exciting, not only for us, but for everybody. We want to make sure everybody has the ability to express themselves in the best way possible. And this is a great tool to be able to do that.
It's interesting that you talk about quality, because certainly when you dropped your beta or your beta version, it was far better than anything else we'd heard. But things march on, and other people are now releasing stuff which sounds in some places even better than yours. And I'm sure your guys are working on making it sound better than that. And so the whole industry now there's multiple people doing this. Everyone is now, it's almost like it's had a shot in the arm and it's being accelerated, which can only be good for DJs, of course, because it already sounds good. And like you say, if you listen back to the version 1s that were out maybe a year or 18 months ago, the people who kind of did this right at the beginning, that sounds awful now. It's already kind of dated. It's already like listening to the very early time stretching, for instance. And then, so from our point of view, as someone standing on the edge watching everyone, what we're observing is that everything seems to be moving forward very quickly, and it can only get better, which obviously good for all DJs.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. I mean, look, I think what we've done, we're very proud of it. And it's only going to get better, from our side. This is not something that we've done just as a one-time thing, and it will not, continue on. Like, it's going to be a part of Serato DJ Pro and DJ Lite. It's a feature now, and it's a free feature as an update, which is great. You're not having to pay for it. You get it, automatically. Kind of going back to the beta situation, and I think this is part of the reason why there was so much excitement around it, right? Is that we had roughly over about 50,000 people that ran to the beta to start using it, which is crazy. Like, this is the largest beta that Serato's ever had, like, which is amazing. And within that 50,000, over 1 million sessions during the beta period of people actually using the beta, testing it out, playing with it, kind of getting a feel for what it does. And again, in Serato's history, and I would even probably say in DJ history across the board, that probably hasn't been done, right? So, really thinking about that, that excitement that has been brought to the table, kind of sees, shows that people were waiting for it in Serato, and that what we brought to it, to the table, was really great. I don't think that many people, 1 million plus people, would have gone back and done sessions over and over and over again if it wasn't good, if not great, right? So that, kind of proves to point that, we brought something great to the table, and we'll continue to, accelerate and improve upon it, as time goes along. As you said, this is now kind of becoming an industry standard that most, kind of companies are going to want to do. And we're in this space now, and we're doing it very well, and we'll continue to do so going forward.
You've certainly made that leap to the other side of the river, if you like, and anyone who's not made that leap, it's just getting progressively harder as the time goes on. So there we go. Watch this space. So then the next question is, you're an artist relations person. You work with Scratch Bastard on the promo video that you guys made, but also you are out there with this tech. You're talking to DJs, so you've got a good idea as to how people are using it, literally what they're doing with it. So I thought it'd be nice if you could talk to us a bit about how they're using it. So obviously, acapellas and instrumentals are a great starting point. Any DJ is going to love the idea of having every acapella in the world whenever they want it. But how else is there anything that surprised you when you've been watching DJs playing with this?
Yeah, for sure. There's been a few things that kind of stand out to me. So, as you said, I work, as a part of the artist relations team at Serato, and deal with interfacing all kind of DJs across the board. So from the guys on radio to the guys on tour to, people in stadiums to, the wedding DJs and the corporate DJs and all the rest of the stuff, right? In regards to radio, which is a really kind of key one, the opportunity to be able to have a DJ have pretty much an instrumental to talk over at any given point in time, right? They're about to go into a talk break, which leads into an ad break. Instead of them having to rush to try to find an instrumental to drop in, then to be able to talk and then go to the ad break, they can literally just echo out the vocal, continue to talk over the instrumental. And if they need to come back into the mix, they can literally drop right back in again, right? So it's a very just easy tool for them to have access, to have space to be able to talk. But on the flip side of it, in regards to mixed show radio, and I love mixed show radio, I listen to, Hot 97 and Power 105 and all the other kind of radio stations that are all around the country that do mixed show. This now allows for the kind of opportunity for like mashups to happen really, really easy, right? To be able to kind of mix in and out of tracks, whether you're doing acapella ins or outs, whether you're putting new instrumentals on top of different songs, acapellas, so on and so forth. It opens up the creativity for mixed show radio in particular, which is really fun. Again, I've been listening to radio for years, so I'm always interested to see what the DJ is bringing to radio in a really unique way, and it does that, which is great. For a lot of club DJs, again, you want to do shout outs and so on and so forth. Again, take the vocal out. You can shout out over the instrumental, then bring it back in again, or vice versa. You want people to be able to sing certain parts of the song. You can take out the instrumental and just have the acapella and have people sing along to that as well. The flip side of that, though, is this. XYZ DJs in the club, and XYZ superstar artist comes into the club and they want to start performing their songs for the audience. Oh, I don't have your instrumentals to your songs, to your catalog. I have the regular versions, but I don't have the instrumentals. Now you do. You literally take out the vocals, and now that artist can be able to perform their songs. And maybe even during the chorus, they can bring the chorus back in so everybody can sing along with it and then kind of go back again, right? So that's another kind of interesting way. In regards to the DJs that do kind of more like weddings and karaoke and things of that nature, especially on the karaoke side, two things I think are really important. The first one, again, is that you can have pretty much any instrumental plus or minus to be able to start working with for people to start singing along to. But if you incorporate Serato video as a part of this, that becomes really interesting because now you have the video files along with the audio associated with it, and you can then start to take out certain parts, the acapella or the instrumental, or take out the drums or melody, what have the case be, and people can start to sing along to it in different ways. Or if you want to, you can switch it up and say, you know what, I want to do karaoke, but I'm going to put a different instrumental on top of this acapella and switch it up, but have the video be playing for what is normally what people, kind of know it to be, right? So it opens up the door for a lot of creativity for people in really, really interesting ways. I was talking with Chubby Chub, who is a heavy hitter DJ, also a DJ on radio, and also is the DJ for 50 Cent. And I showed him the beta early before a lot of people saw it. And he came by the studio, in fact, right here, kind of sitting right here in front of the setup. And he was like, yo, I'm about to go on the road with 50 Cent. And you normally have a band that plays. So I'm usually playing the tracks, and then we have the band playing on top of that in the background. But now he's like, if I want to give the drummer some space to be able to play, I can take out the drums in the track, and now the drummer can play along, or vice versa. If I want to take out the bass in the track and I want to have the bass player have some love, I can do that as well. He's like, the way that this can open up the show for him DJing just becomes a whole different thing than what it was before. The flip side of that is that for people who aren't even DJs, right? People who are educators, they get a chance to actually really listen to the music in a way that they wouldn't have had a chance to listen to before. I've talked to people like, yeah, I'm not a DJ, but when you show me the stems, I can now learn the bass for that Stevie Wonder song that like has a bunch of different changes in it. Or if I want to hear, how this James Brown break, how the drums are really played, I can listen to just the drums without all the other instrumentation there and really kind of dig into it and learn it. So the stems opens up a lot of opportunities and possibilities for DJs, but even people outside of that as well. Yeah.
There's a couple of things there that I loved to hear you saying that I'd never thought of. The first one is playing a familiar video while like really radically remixing a track, like replacing everything apart from the vocal with something else, and yet the video's there to draw people in or make it more palatable. It's almost like, you know, doing a mashup in order to introduce your style to an audience with something they know, but taken to a visual extreme as well. I'd never thought of that. And of course, the education thing is very important. It's something that it's already occurred to us. It's a very easy way of teaching and of stripping songs down and seeing how they're made and so on. So thanks for bringing those two to the table there. I did want to ask you something that a lot of people are talking about in the chat, and of course this is something that is always going to happen when you've got powerful new features, which is the power that you need in your equipment to deal with it. You know, and I mean this with the greatest of respect to DJs who use Serato, a lot of them have been doing it for a long time, and their gear is not, you know, fresh off the production line, M1, right. M2, Max, and all that stuff. They've got stuff that, you know, it's a surprise to them, a pleasant surprise to them when it actually powers up every time they press the button. Some really battle-tested old laptops and stuff out there.
That's right.
How can people with older equipment use stems, or is it time to upgrade their laptops?
This is the bane of my existence for a lot of DJs, talking to them on a regular basis.
So I know just before you carry on, OP, because I just want to set the scene here for people who don't know you,
sure.
like I do. This is OP from Serato, if you've joined us late, by the way, who's talking stems with us. But OP's job is to literally sometimes open the laptop with a DJ who's pulling his or her hair out. They've got a gig in an hour, and fix it. Right, in New York City, you're the man that gets that bleep on your phone at God knows what hour. It's happened when we've been together.
All the time.
You've had to run off when you're like, sorry Phil, I'm out of here. Drop a big name in here. It's playing tonight, and they can't get their library to load or whatever. So you're right at the cutting edge of this. There's no one better, right, I think, to ask. So yeah, sorry, I interrupted you. So carry on. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you said that. Thank you for including that in. So I'll speak about this personally myself before I talk about other DJs. Prior to this new computer that I have here, this M1 computer, I was actually working on a 2013 MacBook Pro. And, you know, it still turns on, it still works. I was on Mojave on that computer, and everything was working well until it got to a certain point that newer gear was coming out that I wasn't going to be able to connect to because it only worked on higher operating systems, right? Things like Catalina, Big Sur, Monterey, and now going into Ventura, right? So I had to make the choice. Okay, you know, I've had this computer now for good number of years. It's done me well, but it's time to be able to upgrade. We don't keep the same cell phone from 10 years ago that we keep now. I need to invest into myself as a DJ and move forward, and that's what I did. A little bit painful, but I know that the power that I have now with this new M1 is well beyond what I would have had with the 2013. Both in terms of space, in terms of speed, in terms of the programs I can run, the stuff I can connect to, so on and so forth. I don't have to worry about being in a professional environment where I can't connect to certain gear because my computer's too old, or the operating system's too old, or the driver, or the so on and so forth. In order for me to connect, I know that I can go make money and I can do my thing, right? So I had to invest in myself to be able to make that happen. Now, to kind of answer your question in regards to the connectivity with stems, technically, and I can even show you on the website as well, Serato.com, for the system requirements, the base model that we've tested on is the 2017 computer, and that is both on Windows and PC. If you are on a 2017, it can be i5, i7, i9 going forward, and then obviously M1 and M2 computers that are supported. The base of what is supported right now in terms of operating systems is Big Sur, and then going up to Monterey and now Ventura, which 3.0 now supports Ventura, right? Technically, during the beta time period, Catalina was still working, but now with Ventura being out, we've now moved 3 steps with the Big Sur, Monterey, and now Ventura, right? That doesn't mean that you can't work it with Catalina, but if there are any things that happen, bugs and things of that nature, we're really testing going forward on the newer operating systems. If you're on anything below that, the kind of Mojaves and High Sierras and so on and so forth, this is the time to be able to at least upgrade your operating system if you can for that computer. But what I would suggest is to make sure that you check with Apple first to see if your computer, depending on the age of it, can handle one of those older operating systems. But again, we've tested on 2017, so that's what we're recommending for people to go forward. I've heard from people both through the forums and other people talking to directly. They're like, oh, I want 2015, it works fine. Cool. If that works for you, go forward, but we really do suggest 2017 and above for those computers. Same thing with Windows 10 and Windows 11, 2017 and those computers going up as well. I totally understand, right? Again, just speaking from my own personal, terms, you have an older computer, it works, it's been a workhorse, it's been riding with you the whole way through. But I know those situations that I could have been in had I not been on a newer computer, being in places where I'm making $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 grand for doing a set, or even doing a $500, $300 set, the local spot. I don't want to be in a position where I'm not able to be able to make my money when I'm playing. So I need to make sure that my computer's working right in the best way possible to make it work. So also to add on to that as well, which is really, really important. I know this is a little bit of a sore spot for some people, but it needs to be talked about. Officially, Rane has not updated the support for the 60 series of mixers. So that is the 61, the 62, the 64, and the 68. And it's also the SL boxes, so the 2, 3, and 4. If you are basically beyond Mojave, you will not be able to update the firmware and the drivers for those pieces of gear. So if you choose to stay on those pieces of gear, you need to stay on an older computer that is on an older operating system to be able to work those. But going forward, they're not doing those. The flip side of that, though, is the Rane 1, the Rane 70, the Rane 72, now the Rane 4, which is an incredible controller coming out next year, which you should be checking out for. All those things will be working with the newer operating systems and can work going forward with the stems, right? So, this might be the opportunity where you say, you know what, I've been rocking on a 62 for a long time. I have one myself. I sold it eventually because I was like, I kind of see where the future is going. I need to be future forward with what I'm doing. I eventually sold it and I stepped up and got a different mixer. And I'm glad I did because now I'm future proofed to be able to go forward with all the technology that's going forward and happening.
And also, it's worth pointing out, I agree with you. It's a sore point to people. Technology moves on, things move on, but it's horrible when you spend money on a piece of hardware and it can't do what you want it to do. There's no soft landing there. It's it's landfill. It's annoying, but I'm going to guess that the software will still work absolutely fine. But you don't have to use the features which are going to make your laptop struggle or whatever. It's not like the whole thing breaks. It's just
that's right.
There's going to be stuff that's going to struggle.
And to your point, right? For me, first and foremost, regardless of the technology, music always comes first, hands down, right? We're DJs. Our job is to be able to provide people music and to be able to bring enjoyment to people. If you are stuck at a place that you can't move forward, make it about the music first and not about the stems. Right. So if you need to stay on an older computer, do that and rock with it. Still rock with Serato. Still, be able to play music for people and do your thing. But if you want to incorporate the stems and still be able to provide that great, entertainment for people, then you should consider stepping up. Yeah.
A lot of people are talking about, wouldn't it be great if standalone hardware could do this? We've got a classic standalone club system that I've just thrown on the screen here in the background. But the truth is, people, that you will never find standalone gear in the near future doing this, because this is real cutting edge stuff, and this is the kind of thing that even modern computers are pushed to their limit in order to do. So that's just the nature of the beast. And it's the same with if you use virtual DJ, it's the same if you use DJ Pro AI, it's the same if you use Serato. I'm sure if Recordbox did it, it would be the same. You can't have this being done in a way that sounds any good with older stuff. So it's just the way it is. However, OP, I did want to ask you something, because there is a way in your software, but also in other versions of this, that kind of makes it a bit easier, but by pre-analyzing the tracks. So can you tell us about that?
For sure. And I'm going to see if I can switch my screen here. Let me know if you get to see this here. Let me switch my tabs. And can you see this here on my screen? For a second we saw your decks overhead, but we didn't see anything else. Okay, you can't see my Serato. I thought you were able to see my screen, but let me see about this. How about this now?
Yeah, well, no, we can see it now, yeah.
Okay, perfect, great. So, and I'm going to kind of walk through this here inside of Serato, a couple of steps here. So the first thing is this, is that in your in the setup inside of Serato, if you go to the DJ preferences here, this is where you can actually have the stems start to work for you, right? So here, down here where it says prepare pad mode with stems, you can turn this on. And then here you can choose what you want to basically, or replace, pardon me, not prepare, pardon me, replace pad mode with stems. You can replace one of the features that you have on your controller or your mixer to be to make it work with stems. So in this instance, I have it set for the sampler, right? And here inside of the program, underneath where the cue points are, here is where I have my stems that are available. Now, you can trigger these directly from your mixer if you want to by pressing the buttons. So you can see here as I press them, they start to move. Or if I want to trigger them directly on the screen, I can press them as well, right? And this is really great if you're using Serato Play. When you're not connected to hardware and you still want to have access to the stems, you can use those by just pressing the buttons on the screen, right? So I kind of preface that to say this, is that we have this folder here in the library, and this is for stems, right? And what you want to do is this, is that if you are DJing, you might be on a little bit of a computer that might not process as fast. It might not be as fast as the M1, but you still want to use the stems. What you can do is you can take the files, the specific files that you want to use during your DJ set, and you can put them into this folder. And what's going to happen is that it's going to sit there and process and analyze, right? So I'm just going to grab a random file here really quickly. Just grab this little Kendrick Lamar joint. I'm going to grab it and move it over to the stems folder here, right? Give it a second. My computer's running two things at the same time, so it shows up a little bit slower. But okay, here we go. So we got it here, and what's going to happen is that it's going to process the song. So it's going to basically kind of break apart the song into its parts: the vocal, the melody, the bass, and the drums. And they're going to be basically reference files that are going to be on your computer for those with the song. And every time that you pull that song up to go play, it will automatically be able to work with the stems. Instead of having your computer to try to process it while it's playing, it'll just be there. So these songs that I have here, which I can't play right now because of copyright situations, these are all set up to where when I load them up, I can automatically start using the stems and it be good to go. Now, the one thing that you want to be careful about, and the reason why I say if you're specific songs that you want to use for this, right, is that this technically, and you can see here, it just actually turned white, so now I can start to use this and have the separation go on anytime that I want to, right? Every time that you do this, it's going to create 4 files in the background on your computer. Again, one for the vocal, one for the melody, one for the stems, and one for the bass. And that is a locked file that you cannot access. So you can't take those files and put them into something else and use them, right? It's only for reference. But if you do that with your whole library, now your library is going to be expanded beyond what you want it to be. You're going to take up a bunch of space on your computer. So I always tell people, for the very specific songs that you want to use, put them inside of that folder, stem it out, and then you can start to use the stems when you want to for your DJ sets as you go along.
Cool. So thanks for demoing that. Get yourself back on the screen. There we go.
Yep.
Thank you for that. So it's not no hope if you have got a computer that's a bit older. You can do the analysis ahead of time. Make sure you've got hard disk space available for that.
That's right.
So the next question I want to ask is a pain point people were feeling when this wasn't officially out, which is, why isn't my controller supported yet? And I guess you're kind of going back, and what I would do would be add the most popular ones first, and then add the kind of edge cases later on. Is there a list somewhere on your website where people can see if their controller is currently supported by stems? And to quickly explain to people the way you do it, because for instance on this controller I have here, the Rane 4, it's easy. You can knock out the you don't have to knock out anything in order to use stems, because you select on the pads stems. It's got a stems, literally it's got a button. You press that button and the stems will work. So you don't need to do anything special. But of course, if your controller hasn't got a stems button, which guess what, is all controllers apart from this one, you're stuck. So what you do is you switch out, as OP was showing you, you say, I'll forfeit the sampler in order to use stems, and then it puts it switches the sampler pad control over to stems. So that's how it works on older controllers, but it doesn't work on all of them. So where can they find that out, OP?
That's right. So let me switch over here again. Give me 1 second. So what you should see here on your computer is, give me 1 second.
Me. We can see me. That's interesting. Me coming all the way back to New York.
Sorry about that. Now we can see the support page. Here we go. Good. We like seeing Phil. Phil's a good guy, handsome guy at that. So if you go to support here, there will be the opportunity to see a bunch of support articles that are there. And this one talks about Ventura, Mac OS 13, being supported now with 3.0, right? And if you scroll down, it will tell you the supported hardware that is here. So there's a bunch of stuff that's here from Akai, from Allen and Heath, from Denon. One thing to note with the Denon stuff, especially with the DS1 box, the DS1 box is class compliant, which means that it will work when you go to plug up and play, which is great. So, and a lot of people are saying, oh, there's no Serato boxes out there. Well, actually, the Denon box is the one that you want to be able to work with. Unfortunately, the Rane ones won't work, but the Denon ones will. So there, some Gemini stuff. If you're using Gemini, Hercules, Mixars, Newmark, there's a great deal of Newmark stuff that's working with it. I love the Newmark stuff. Big shout out to Newmark. The majority of the newer Pioneer stuff is working as well, including the FLX4, which is now just released, and I just got a chance to play around with it recently. Really, really great controller. So that is there in support as well. The Rane stuff, as I was talking about before, if you're on the newer Rane stuff, so the 70 and the 72 and the 2015. So if you're on the rotary mixer, it works there as well. And I'll talk about 4-channel mixers. Phil, remind me about that, so I can give you a tip on that as well.
Okay.
Rane 1, and then also the Roland gear as well. So Roland, love Roland, and their controllers and the 808 stuff that is what that works. Reloop stuff as well, great company, so on and so forth. So important to note, currently unsupported DJ hardware, right? So this is a whole list of stuff that is not going to be supported with the stems in this immediate moment, and it will even tell you here that either you need to be on a certain OS and point version of Serato if you have this gear and you still want to be able to use it, or the OS that you want to be able to use. So some of the older Pioneer gear, you might need to be on an older OS to keep working with it and going forward. And again, here with the information in regards to the point version and the version that you want to be on. So again, having that information is super important. If you go again to the support, you can find this here under the troubleshooting optimizations, and then you'll see this article here, and this will be to help you out to navigate. Going forward, as we go into 2023, we have new gear that comes out, different controllers and mixers. I've seen some stuff, and it's really good, including the Rane 4, which is an incredible controller. That stuff going forward should be working, totally fine with the stems going forward. So, keep that in mind as you're looking forward for new gear.
Cool, thank you, OP, for that. So we're talking to OP today on this subject of stems, OP being from Serato, who've just added stems to their software. And of course, the big news in the hardware world is that this controller we've got here, the Rane 4, with its stem split button, which we won't go into too much detail about now, but this button will not only let you put the stems across 2 channels, so you've got a channel for the a cappella and a channel for the instrumental, which you can then change if you want, but that's how it does it by default, but then let you literally just grab and scratch the vocal and separate the playing so that they're not both playing at the same place in the song, which is mind-boggling. But we've got a demo of that over on the Digital DJ Tips website and YouTube channel where we talk you through how that works. So if you want to see the Rane 4 in particular and those unique currently features on this unit that I've got here, that's the place to do it. But we're talking to OP today. Now, I do have all your questions here. I see a lot of them coming in, a lot of healthy debate. I'll use the word healthy debate about stems and technology and so on. We will get to those, don't worry. I just want to ask OP a couple more things before we get there. And then OP, if you've got time, it'd be great if you could hang around and maybe chip in on some of the answers to these
Absolutely.
questions.
Yeah, and big shout out to all the DJs that are out there. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you.
Thank you, OP. I think most people watching are probably DJs, I would guess. Anyway, we might have some gym instructors thinking I can get the vocals off that track so I can shout at my spin class more easily. I love it.
Too.
It's totally unconnected, but today I was, I'm a runner, I run marathons and stuff, but today for the first time in like 2 decades, I kind of was told of the importance of running at a certain cadence, at a certain speed in order to save your hips, and so I thought I'd try it, and the best way I could do it was to make a 90 BPM mixtape, so that when I was running I was always on the beat. So I've got this completely new lease of life where I'm going to use this Rane 4 probably later on today, and I'm going to do myself a 90 BPM mix for tomorrow. So anyway, there we go. Nice. I might knock some of the vocals out when I think they might put me off. Anyway, as I said, totally unconnected. So yeah, people who are asking questions, we normally try and answer them as we go through, but obviously OP's time's precious, so I wanted to get the advice out of him first, and then we'll give him a bit of a Digital DJ Tips polite grilling later. So that list of hardware you just showed us, that is stuff which now works with stems, right? Just to be completely clear. Perfect. All right. So one more question I had ahead of time before we kind of throw it open and see what people are saying in the chat, which was, clearly there's not an awful lot you can tell us, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What next for STEMS? You said that you're going to keep developing it. Is there anything you can share with us? Any ideas that are already bubbling under? What's coming next?
Good question. I can't tell you anything specific because technically I don't know. There are things that I would love to be able to see for sure. Definitely more gear to be, set up to be able to work automatically with it. Actually, things like the XP2, for example, and I'm glad you kind of brought this back around because there's actually a little tip I want to give. Love Lisa here, who is one of my friends. She's going to help me grab the XP2 really quickly, and I'm going to show you a really quick trick on the 4-channel mixers because I think this will end up eventually being one of those things that we end up using kind of going forward. If you're on a 900 Nexus 2, you're on the MP 2015 mixer. That's right there on the top. Yeah, cool. Thank you. Perfect. Okay. There we go. Perfect. Cool. So this bad boy right here, right? So if you're on a 4-channel mixer right now, 4-channel mixers don't have pads on them, and you need to have pads in order to be able to make the stems work in the right way, right? In terms of being able to have it kind of live in the moment to be able to work with. So my hope is that in the future, things like this will be automatically mapped, so that way you can have 4-deck control. What you can do in the meantime is that the great thing about Serato and the stems is that you can basically MIDI map a MIDI device to be able to work with the stems. So what I've done in the past, I went during the beta time period when we weren't supposed to be using it out, I took the daring chance to use it out, and it actually works very well. But what I did on a 4-channel mixer when I was using HID mode with 3000s and a 900 Nexus 2 was I made 4 decks that were set up for stems. So I had cue points that were set up for the first 4 for each channel. So I'm going to see if I can put this down here. You can see this hopefully. So here I had 4 cue points that were set up, and then I also had the stems that were set up here, and I did that for all 4 channels. So that way, if I was going to play more than 2 songs at a time, I could then have it available to be able to do the stems for each of the channels that I'm working with and be able to play, right? So 4 channels, stem setup, cue points, and stems, being able to kind of fly in and out of stuff. So I can bring the vocal in from one track, bring the drums in from another track, the bass from another track, a melody from another track, and kind of do a live kind of mix mash together. So my hope in the future is that more pieces like this will be kind of pre-mapped to be able to work with the stems and to happen. Beyond that, I can't really give you detail in regards to what forward will happen. My hope is that there are things like more effects and a bit more flexibility with the stems going forward. But again, I can't really give that information. Hopefully we'll know that going into 2023, as HQ is developing it more and working on it. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited. We're at a great place now. So my assumption and hope is that it's only going to get better as we go forward. Cool.
Well, thank you, OP. Let's take some comments now.
Yes, please. Big shout out to everybody out there.
I'm producing the show on my own today. I don't have, it's actually a holiday here, so everyone else is off. So I don't have someone helpfully scrolling through the comments and putting the ones in front of me that we want. So you're going to have to bear with me while I do that. I see you've got them open there as well, which is cool. And you've also had someone there helping as well, haven't you? Love Lisa's been helping you, I believe. So
that's right.
Thank you for that. But anyway, let's just read a few out. The Ruckus on YouTube. I played with stems last night. It definitely needs work, but it's loads of fun. Thank you for that. So what else have we got here? So when the track is separated, can you loop one without affecting the other? So in other words, when you've got stems separated, can you loop one without affecting the other? I guess the answer to that, OP, is on this unit here, the Rane 4, yes, you can instantly because it automatically separates them. Could you just load the same stems track onto 2 decks and do it that way?
Absolutely. That's the trick to be able to do it, right? So, on a 2-channel mixer, you could easily do that, having, let's say, a loop of a vocal phrase, right, kind of looping. And if you wanted to have like the drums or even the instrumental of that same track on deck 2, you could have that running and doing its thing. If you have 4 decks that you're working with, then that gives you even more possibilities to be able to have certain things looping while other things are playing straight through, right? So it depends on how you want to be able to freak it. It's totally possible. But unfortunately, on the same deck, you cannot loop and then separate at the same time, meaning that you want to be able to have one thing kind of continuing to play while one thing's looping in the separation. You need to have 2 decks or more to be able to make that happen.
Yeah, I mean that gets complicated at that point. I think. I mean, I
Yeah.
struggle. I struggle with layers anyway, especially after a beer or two. So when you're starting to, when it's the same track across the layers, I imagine it can get quite complex quite quickly.
Yeah.
This is from, well, a few of you asking about systems. So hopefully we answered that. Basically, the more powerful and the newer your computer, the better. Ideally, this is. Again, Terence is saying, why does it take so much of your processing power? Because it's doing cutting edge stuff, Terence, and cutting edge stuff does take processing power.
And one thing, Phil, I will say to that as well, is that if you think about other programs that are out there, whether it be from Isotope or Lao Lao and, things that kind of, will do this kind of separation, those take actually a bit longer of processing to be able to happen depending on the situation, right? And it's also not intuitive in the sense that it's right in front of you on your DJ mixer or controller, right? Like you have to kind of cloud compute or put it through a program. It has to kind of run to its thing, and you have to export it out and then put it into your Serato and then hope that it works and so on and so forth. In the program, be able to have it accessible and then be able to kind of live do it as you're going through or pre-process with the stems folder and then make it work. It keeps you in the workflow, right? So literally you have an idea like, oh, I'm playing this song, but I want to take out this, I want to add this in. You can kind of do it instantly, in the moment while you're kind of feeling it versus having to go through another program to make it happen. And then you kind of lose inspiration while you're going along. So I hear you in regards to, some computers might not be able to process as fast, but again, it still keeps you in the moment versus having to go somewhere else first to be able to come back in and to be able to do it.
Here's a quick question for you that it's been on my mind about stems. You see, to me, there's always this debate about whether people want to do this live or whether they want to do it ahead of time, whether it's a practice routine that uses stems, right? So you know what you're going to do and then you do it, or even getting the acapellas, recording them, having them in your set, ready to use in the same way you've always used acapellas. Or just going crazy and going, just using inspiration and doing it completely off the cuff. What's your take on that, OP? Have you noticed DJs getting a bit more cocky and doing it unrehearsed, or are at this point in the life of stems, is it more, they've clearly been practicing that and so on? What have you noticed?
I've noticed a couple of things. The first thing is that there are people who have been seriously practicing, like one of my DJs who I'm really following a lot, and I see what he's doing. There's actually a couple of people. One guy named Suji. If you find him on Instagram and TikTok, he's absolutely amazing. The things that he's doing with the stems just makes total sense. And he's doing that, like killing it, kind of like right there, right? DJ Marvel, for another example, who was killing it again on the stems, really thoughtful about the things that he's putting together to make it make sense, right? And there are a bunch of other people that are doing that as well. But I also have been out in clubs and situations where I see people that are doing it as well. And for the most part, it's kind of working in the right way. Like they're kind of in the moment, they have the inspiration, they figure it out, they drop it in, and it works. Or I've seen people who have literally just used the stems to take things away. It's not always about having to mix two things together. Sometimes it's about creating that tension where you take something from people, you let it ride, and they're waiting for it to come in, and then you bring it at the right time and it drops, right? So taking away a bass line for a moment where it's just the drums and maybe the vocal, or maybe take away the melody, and you start to incorporate that in later on and kind of anticipate, kind of build this anticipation for it to kind of build up. You can do that. And I've seen that happen, and it's worked in a really great way, right? So I've seen people do that. The flip side of that is I've also seen some train wrecks that are out there as well, right? Like people that are doing stems with things that either aren't in the right key or the phrasing of the song they don't get right, meaning that like they're not putting the vocal in the right place. They're putting, like let's say the chorus part on top of like the, kind of breakdown or the drop where it doesn't make sense for it to be there, or vice versa, where the verse is on top of the chorus in the wrong place. It just doesn't sonically sound right, right? What I always tell people is this, is that stems, absolutely great, love it. We're going to use it tastefully, please. Not every song has to be a mashup. Not every song has to be an acapella out. Not every song has to be, the instrumental, for 16 bars before you drop it in and so on and so forth. You can make it to be whatever you want it to be, but do it tastefully. If you do it tastefully, it's going to only add to your set and not distract from what you're able to do. And on top of it,
when people make songs, they make songs for people to be able to hear, right? So granted, of course, remixes are great and we love them. We love to do them, but people also want to hear the songs that they want to hear in the club or on radio and whatever the case may be in the way that they heard it. If you enhance it, that makes it better. But if you're always kind of switching up and changing it, it might get a little annoying for some people depending upon what's happening. So again, use it tastefully and it becomes a great tool for you.
Interesting, yeah. And there's more than one level of using stems, as you touched on there. It doesn't need an awful lot of thinking about to build tension by taking something out for a little while or whatever. That's very different to a complex mashup and so on. So I think one of the lessons here is it's not going to instantly turn you into a superstar just having these new buttons to press. A bit like when word processing first arrived and you saw posters with 25 fonts on them just because 25 fonts were in Microsoft Word version 1.0 or whatever. Right, here's a question for you. I don't actually know the status of this at all.
Okay.
This unit here, the Rane 707M, a wonderful, in my view, probably the best controller for Serato if you're playing out as a mobile or event or wedding DJ. Highly capable thing. Where are we at with this and stems? Because a couple of people are saying, is it supported? I don't think it is. Can you throw any light on that?
Yeah, I'm gonna throw you back over here to my screen here. Okay, you should see my computer screen. So the support page that I showed you before, if you scroll down under the supported hardware and you go to Roland, which is here. The 707 here says, please read the support article. This is important. So when you go to read this, we'll give you information in regards to it, right? So I know that it will be supported very soon, but you need to make sure that you're reading this if you're on Monterey to make this work, right? So make sure that you read the support article for making sure that the driver is working and being good. But I personally talked to the folks over at Roland, and we initially during the beta time period of this, the 202 was the one that was supported primarily because that's pretty much the most popular one out of all of them. There's so many people that have 202s. And so they're like, hey, look, there's a lot of people out here that want to use other, pieces. Can we make sure that that's supported as well? And we listened to them. We wanted to make sure that we're supporting those rolling, customers. And so we made sure those things were added on as being support. So yes, it will work. But again, make sure you follow that support article to make sure that you're making sure everything's working right if you're on Monterey and so on and so forth to go forward.
Perfect. So there you go, Kev Human, who I set on YouTube. Some good news for you there and a little hack if you're scratching your head and you're not sure why it's not working. So let's grab another one straight out of our chat window here. This is, I hope he's getting paid. He's getting paid. He works for Serato.
I work for Serato, so yeah. Yes.
As always, our chat OP is, as I'm sure Lovelisa's finding out, is generally a really great place, but it gets very full of enthusiasm and tends to go off on tangents. So the job here is to literally try and pick out the stuff that's going to help everyone from it.
That's right.
This is from E Terrible Beats, who says, how long have you known about this, Phil? Serious question. Well, E Terrible Beats, in order to be able to prepare shows like this and reviews like we just put live on the site, clearly we need a little bit of time. It could be anything from a couple of months to a couple of weeks, depending, or even like a day, depending on the company, how organized they are, and how much in favor we are at any given point in time. To give you you asked a serious question, there's a serious answer.
Well, I'll add on to that as well, is that I'm speaking personally that I really appreciate what you do for the DJ community, and I see the work that you and your team put in. But Serato sees that as well. So we were talking to you early about this to let you know kind of what was coming forward and what to expect and so on and so forth, showing the demo of it and getting you the beta early and so on and so forth. So yeah, I mean, you're very much important to us as Serato, but also to the DJ community. So we wanted to make sure that you were in advance and ahead of this to be able to talk about this the right way to the community. So yeah.
Oh, thank you. I feel all Christmassy all of a sudden.
It's the season.
So this is someone awesome on Twitch. You're praising the M1, how it's heaven sent. This is the powerful new Mac, of course. But it can't hold the frame rate while I'm streaming and when I've got the browser open. And this. Look, all computers have got a limit. They just all have. It's like hard drives. If you get a big hard drive, you're going to fill it. If you get a big computer that does lots of clever stuff, you're going to find more things to throw at it. If you're trying to live stream a DJ set and run DJ software and do stems, guess what? It's going to struggle. But that's not bad. Push it to the limit. Find out. Find out. Quite often with Serato, I found speaking just about Serato, because that's what we're talking about today, even if the computer struggles and the frame rate struggles and the waveforms are cracking up a bit, generally the last thing to go is the audio, and that's obviously by design, right? So, you know, just ride it, see what happens. You might get used to it. And guess what? You're doing everything from the one computer, so there's ups and downs, pluses and minuses. Let's grab, people talking about the XP2, saying really glad that that's possible. Thank you for showing us that.
Absolutely.
OP. So,
actually, Bill, would you mind if I show one more tip?
Oh, I'd love you to. Go for it.
Yeah, great. Okay, cool. I'm going to go to the overhead here. Hopefully you can see the overhead. Now, I know it's a little upside down here, upside down world, but this hopefully should be able to work in the right way, right?
OP, it's like peering over your decks at a club. It's like
that's right.
Show me how you did that.
Just don't touch my gear. That's all. Don't spill your drink on my gear. All right. So I am on the S11 mixer. Love this mixer, Pioneer. And right now I'm in my hot cues, right? And remember before that I replaced my my stems with the sampler, right? So it's here. So there's a thing on this mixer called combi mode, right? Where I can have basically 2 modes at the same time on the pads. So here, if I hold down on hot cue and press sampler, what happens now is that my first 4 cue points here show up. And then I also then have the stems on and off here as well. So if you are DJing and you want to be able to trigger your cue point while also being able to trigger the stems as well, you can do so by pressing the cue point and then also going to the stems to turn things on and off, right? So I'm going to play this here real quick. This is a license-free song, so we're good here. So I'm playing this here, and I have the cue points. So the vocals here. So I can trigger the cue point and take out the vocal if I want to, and then press it again and then have it come back in. And I can do that for anything else here. Right, so so being able to have that opportunity to be able to trigger the cue point and then also be able to have the stems there at the same time allows for your performance to be that much more expressive, right? And you can map that also too on the XP2 if you want to, right? So if you want to have it to where you have it to be, again, the cue points and then the stems, you can do that. Or if you're just on a 2-channel, I'm going to bring the XP2 here again so you can kind of see this here on the overhead, right? You could have it to where you have your 8 cue points for your 2 channels, right, left and right. And then you could have your full stems here, which would be inclusive of turning on and off the stems, but then also having the effects for the stems. So if you want to do the echo out on the vocal or the echo out on the instrumental or the breaker on the instrumental or the echo out on the drums, you can do that as well here, right? So this opens up the possibility. Now, let's say you're on an older mixer. Let's say you're on like a mixer like the S3 mixer by Pioneer, right? It's that little small 2-channel mixer, but doesn't have pads on it. Then you could have this setup with it, and you could have, again, your cue points set up for your 8 cue points inside of Serato, and then you could have your full stem set up here as well. So it becomes actually a really powerful kind of combination, having the S3 and this together at the same time. So I just wanted to point that out because I think it's really important for people to understand that, you know, if you do have a mixer that is limited in terms of its functionality, that you'll still will be able to access it if you have a piece like this, the XP2, to be able to work with and make some things happen. But that trick with the S11 and also works on the S7 as well is pretty cool with that combo mode to be able to make it work with the stems and the cue points.
Lovely, thank you. I'll answer this one quickly from Magdi on Twitch. Yes, it does work with streaming tracks as well. Obviously, you can't do that preparation ahead of time, I don't think, but it will work with It will work with streaming chat. That's actually how we demoed it. So if you watch our video on YouTube where we're looking at the Rane 4 that I've got here, and I was demoing stems and the stem split, we literally were just pulling tracks off Tidal and using it directly with that, which is, funnily enough, how we do pretty much all of our training nowadays. We don't bother with local music. We just use the streaming services. I have to say, it's just so easy. You know, we start off with the streaming service, and something in our back of our head says, oh, well, when we come to actually filming, we'll download it, and we never do. So there you go. Right, we'll get 1 or 2 more because I've had an hour of your time here, OP, and I know time's money, as they say. Let's grab this one from one of our students who says, for those of you who don't want to give up your 2012 MacBook, this is from Benny, thank you Benny, load your tracks before you start the session. Yes, for the processing, as you were talking about earlier, OP.
That's right.
Indeed, right. Yes. Nice to see people being pushed towards your Discord. We think about Discord sometimes.
Oh, Discord's great. We have a Serato Discord. If you're not part of it, make sure you join on. There's a lot of great conversation in there, both in regards to DJ stuff, but also music production as well. And I actually kind of want to circle back just a little bit because you asked the question before in regards to where some people kind of presetting their stems before they go, meaning that they were recording it before and then playing it out. You can technically use Serato to do that, right? If you're using files that are on your computer, you can ideally, if you're using sync, because it just locks everything in, beat grids and so on and so forth, you can record whatever you did with your stems, right? So your acapella with this new instrumental or whatever the case may be, right? And you can bring that back in. That was my Discord beeping off right there. I don't know if you heard that right there. But you can record that and then bring that back into Serato and use it. The flip side of that is that we have stems inside of Serato DJ. We also now are in beta for stems inside of Serato Studio, which is our DAW. And if you don't know about Serato Studio, you can check it out on Serato.com. You can make beats with it, but it's also really great for DJ edits. So what I've been telling people is this, on the DJ side of things, right? Two things. One, actually three things, really. The first one is if you wanted to create a mashup of some sort that you would have done normally out loud or live, you could do that inside of Serato Studio, line it up, it locks in, and you can just do it and make it work, right? And then bounce it out and then put it into Serato and bit of play it. Serato Studio actually reads your Serato library, your Serato DJ library. So you can literally find the songs inside of Serato Studio because the library is there. You pull them out, you put them in, you mash them up, you bounce it out, you play it out, you're good to go, right? The second thing is that with Serato Studio, if you take that song that you want to have, and maybe it's a dirty version of the song, you need a clean version of it, you can make a clean version of it with the stems inside of Serato Studio. So basically, if you import that song, let's say the instrumental, so you import the song and you just have the instrumental, and then you import it again and just have the acapella, you can go into the acapella and you can do about 2 or 3 different things to be able to cut or do effects to make sure that the curse words are muted or taken out, so that way you can have that to be able to play. And then the third thing, which I've had a lot of fun with, is that if you've had, let's say, older songs like funk, disco, Motown songs, right, that maybe the drums were like kind of mixed a little low and you wanted to kind of like beef them up, or you even want to kind of like edit different parts of it to kind of give it more of a club feel, then again, you can take the song and import it in 4 times, right? So you put it in 4 times into audio tracks inside of Serato Studio, and then separate it by its parts. So one for the vocal, one for the melody, one for the bass, and one for the drums. And then you can go to each part and you can almost mix them, meaning that by audio, EQ, compression, filters, so on and so forth. So I took the other day a Bill Withers song, and drums were there and they were cool, but it really wasn't punching. And I took just the drums and I put a little compressor on it and EQ'd it a little bit, and the drum started smacking automatically. And I did this for a demo for a bunch of people, and they were like, yo, I could actually play this now. This is absolutely amazing, right? So you can use Serato Studio to enhance your DJ sets for Serato DJ by being able to use it. Again, we're in beta right now, so if you have a license for Serato Studio, you can access the beta, and then you'll have access to the stems to be able to do those things. Fingers crossed everything goes right. We're looking at sometime early next year. I don't have a date yet, but for stems in Studio to be out as well. So if you need to make those DJ edits, Serato Studio is a great way for you to be able to do that. Plus making beats as well. It's a great program.
It's crazy you should say that, because the idea of being able to take something that sounds a bit ropey because it's old and just separating it and tidying it up a bit is it's almost goosebump stuff, really, when you think of some of that old music you love. I was listening to someone on a podcast talking about Spotify and about the way that it's about 1975, 1976 onwards where music sounds like it could have been recorded today, right? The studio technology got to that point where, at that point, Fleetwood Mac, Tusk, and that kind of era, it just sounds awesome now. It sounds awesome. Whereas anything before that, you can kind of tell it was recorded before that. But the ability to take those old songs, and they were saying, should we be doing it? Should we be making the Beatles sound modern? But clearly for DJs, yes, you should, because you can make it sound like it's going to pump on the dance floor. I mean, just the way you're talking about it there, imagine putting a bit of sidechain compression on an old track from the drums. It's not hard to do.
It works.
With the stems that you've pulled out yourself. A quick question here, which I'm going to answer, which is, can you do it on streaming tracks? Oh, no, in fact, we covered the streaming tracks one. So yes, you can do it on streaming tracks, but you can't do the stuff ahead of time. You know what? I think we're pretty much there, OP. Unless you guys have pulled any, because I know you're monitoring the socials there. Unless you pulled anything out that you want to talk about that we've missed.
No, not much. The only thing I want to do is just show again kind of a couple key things. So I'm going to switch over really quickly to my screen here. So again, make sure you go check out the support article. Really important. That gives you all the information about the supported gear that's available to work with the stems and 3.0. Again, there's unsupported stuff and things that you might need to do if you want to continue to use that stuff as well. And then also Serato Studio as well, which we were just talking about. Really important one here for stems with light and pro. Again, I said it's kind of the same thing. So actually, I'm going to go to this one here. This is where I want to be at for the downloads page. This is where I want to be. Sorry about that. So on the downloads page, I know a lot of people asking questions in regards to compatibility and so on and so forth. The best thing to do is to come here to the downloads page and look at the system requirements. Oftentimes people kind of skip over this. They download and they don't read anything that's down here. This stuff is very, very important. So go to the system requirements here, and this will give you details on Mac and then also for Windows for the requirements that are needed. Remember I was saying before, the 2017 computers or later, this is that information right here that you want to be able to have. This one is really important. The 15 gigs of storage space on your computer. Make sure you have that so everything can run smoothly on your computer. I know people who run down to like 2 gigs of space on their computer, which is like the worst thing you can do for your computer. Save space. If you don't have if you have things on your computer that don't need to be there, like old photos and videos, put those on a hard drive, save those somewhere else. Leave space for your computer to be able to run properly for DJing when you're playing out with Serato, right? And mind you that there are recommended specs and then there are high performance specs, which are a little bit different, right? So you can see here that there's slightly different in terms of the age of the computer that's here. Again, please make sure that you read this information because it gives you what you need to be able to move forward, to be able to play and do your thing and make it happen, right? For those who are on older versions of Serato or need to go to an older version of Serato, you can go here to the downloads archive. This is if you say, you know what, my computer is not fast enough to be able to run stems, but I want to stay on an older version to be able to play with. You can go to the download archives and you can find the older versions of Serato here. But again, this one here, super, super important. Whenever there's a new point update, which would mean probably for new gear, such as the Rane 4, when that comes, there'll be a new point update for that. You should, again, come here and check this because there might be things that are potentially updated for this information, both for the specs and then also for anything that is added onto the program, whether it be bug fixes or things of that nature. You want to be able to make sure you read all this information. And the reason why I really stress this a lot is that a lot of DJs, unfortunately, when they call me, oh, I got, my computer's not working. I updated to this operating system, and so on and so forth. I get all these things, and I'm like, what did you check here first? And most people say no, right? So read the information. It's here for you, and this will help you in your way as you're moving along.
Great, thank you for that. Right, we're nearly finished now.
Cool.
There is just one quick question from Dean, who says, when you analyze stems, does it save them to your desktop so you can use them separately? No, it doesn't, Dean.
You can't.
If you wanted to record something out, you could analyze that and hit record and do it that way, but it doesn't do it automatically. There are programs out there that do, but that's not DJ software. Right. Well, listen. There's one question because I always like to do this, OP, because hey, right. I can. I'm in a position where I can. There's one question that just popped into my head when you were talking about Serato Play. So for people who don't know what Serato Play is, it's really cool software because it lets you use your keyboard to control Serato and then plug in your speakers to your laptop directly. So if you just want to be messing around with a mix on a plane or on your lap when your family are watching TV or whatever, you can do it without having to plug a controller in, which was always the thing with Serato, right? You had to plug a controller in. It's a paid expansion to Serato that you buy and plug in, and it then has that capability. I might be wrong about this because I haven't checked recently, OP, but one thing that for me that was missing from there that I always wished they would add is the ability to use a little headphone splitter cable and then have your speakers and your headphones plugged in at the same time in the way that other DJ software does. Is that on the roadmap, or has it been added without me noticing? Do you know anything about that?
So if I'm correct, that shit is already there. So
cool.
inside of Serato, let me actually I can't unplug. If I unplug, I'm going to end up losing the audio with you. But if you're inside of Serato Play, right underneath the right deck, there's going to be a little cog there, and that will give you some of the features for Serato Play, right? So you'll be able to see what the hotkeys are. There should be one that says use split headphone queue, if I'm correct.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah, someone just asked in the comments, and I thought, that's something I wanted as well. So it's obviously happened. Yeah, probably years ago. No one checked or noticed. So
that's
well
right.
done.
So
Good.
It's there. So you turn that on. You use a specific headphone splitter that will have the output going to your speakers and then one going to your headphones. Right. Don't get a regular one because it's not going to work. Get the specific one. There are plenty of them that are out there that make them. Right. When you do that, then you'll be able to hear in your headphones when you press the headphone icon. Because you'll see two headphones that pop up on inside of Serato Play next to the mixer or in the mixer section, and you can cue listening to whatever you want to in your headphones while the song is playing out. And as you then with your crossfader, you'll be able to move over to the other side and press the cue on the other side and then start to mix again on the other side. So it's totally there. Just make sure you have that headphone splitter, the right one, and you can use that, and you're good to go. Serato Play.
More good news. Okay, OP, thank you very much for joining us, talking about 3.0, talking about stems, talking about Ventura, talking about system requirements and the future and how this is dropping and how DJs are using it. We really appreciate your time. I want to point people in the direction of Digital DJ Tips if you want to have a look at this unit, the unit that was launched on the day that Stems was officially put out there in public as a performance feature inside Serato. This is launched, but it's not available yet. It's available Q1 2023, but we've got a review on it. We talk about all the features that I'm pointing out now. So do take a look at that. Also, there's a news piece on Digital DJ Tips that links to some of the things that OP's been talking about, like the Serato website where you can find the system requirements and so on. It's a fascinating time for DJing, OP. And
it is.
Thank you very much for taking the time to join us today from New York City and Serato HQ. It feels a little bit like a second home to me there, because 3 or 4 times now we've had the privilege of visiting you there and messing around and talking DJing. My family still remembers it, actually. I remember dragging them all in on the way to the airport once.
I remember that too. Yeah, big shout out to your family, and we gotta get you back here soon. Yeah, we gotta get you back here soon. So, thank you so much, and big up to everybody who's been watching. Shout out to all the DJs and who do you say, the fitness trainers or whoever that are out there as well
I think,
watching. But,
I think a lot of people are making playlists for radio and for fitness stuff.
That's right.
And for
That's
going
right.
on their training runs. And there's a lot more to DJing than clubbing, as we always say. There's an awful lot of people who are DJing who are going nowhere near nightclubs. So shout out to all of you.
Yeah, but foundation-wise, the DJs, big up to all y'all, because y'all are the foundation of what we do. I'm one of you, you're one of us, and we appreciate you. So big love to y'all.
Thank you, OP. Right, everyone, we are done for today. However, we're back again on Thursday with our Any Questions. So a lot of you were asking questions that weren't directly related to what we had OP on for then. That's cool. Just pop back on Thursday at the same time, 3 p.m. London, 10 a.m. Eastern, and we will cover that for you. I hope you found this useful. If you've got any other questions, please ask them underneath, especially if you're on Facebook, because they'll stay with this video. But if you're watching the recording on YouTube, then ask underneath there as well. We will get to you, and if we can't answer you, we'll get someone at Serato to answer you as well. Meanwhile, though, from me, Phil, here in the studio, with the Rane 4. Get good, get out there, make the moments, and we'll see you again very soon. Until next time, goodbye.